Welcome to The Jury's Still Out, a show highlighting and discussing all things having to do with law, trials, and juries. Your host is Mary Griffiths, a litigation consulting expert who has overseen thousands of cases in state and federal courts, and is a jury correspondent to discuss trial matters and media strategy as it pertains to jury selection and courtroom performance. This is The Jury's Still Out.
Hi, welcome back to The Jury's Still Out. I'm your host, Mary Griffiths, and I'm very excited today to talk to someone that I know is a very seasoned litigator, loves trials and all that entails. He practices in both products liability, aviation, and mass torts. Please welcome to the show, Ross Cunningham.
Hey, thank you, Mary.
Ross, welcome. I'm so glad you came in. I have been really interested in wanting to talk to people who I know love trials.
That's me.
That is you. So my first question out of the box is, here we are 9 months working through this pandemic, working through COVID. How have the questions from clients, how have they changed from last year to this year at this time?
Let's see. Well, as we all went through COVID when it first started, I would say the first 3 months were, do we have to do anything?
Very true.
Everyone kind of hunkered down and freaked out in April and May, and nothing really happened. After that, I believe, frankly, I think the plaintiff's lawyers got a little hungry because, again, they're not going to get paid until they settle a case or try a case. And so the whole COVID shutdown kind of worked against the plaintiff's lawyers. And I think they had to, as a group and us as an industry, we had to figure out how can we keep moving the ball along in litigation. For the longest time, we couldn't do anything in a courtroom. We couldn't do anything with a jury. Judges were just basically telling us, we have no idea what we're going to do. We have no rules. We have no idea how to put a jury in the box. Frankly, we don't even know how to get the jury to the courthouse. So it wasn't until the end of the summer, I would say more like August and really September, before a majority of the judges started having an idea on how they would hold a hearing or possibly get a jury in a box. So my clients, at first it was, do we have to do anything? The answer was no, we're all figuring this out. Then it moved into, well, if we have to do something, should we do it now or should we push it back? Should we wait?
Right.
Different clients have different appetites. Some wanted, and it's probably no different than any big corporation. Do they want to try to book an expense this year, or do they want to kick the can down the road?
Right.
So frankly, I think the number one kind of question or area of questions I'm getting from my clients these days is, can we wait or can we push? Some want to push. Some want to wait. And so, no different than my kids at school, right? The COVID excuse can be used offensively or defensively. Right. And I really have a mix of clients that are kind of using it to say, let's just start over next year. And others are saying, no, we'd like to get back to work and we'd like to keep on pressing on. Right.
So almost like the 2020 meme of like, 2020, should we just wait until 2021 and get the thing rolling, get the ball rolling? So what issues, Ross, are you seeing that are different this year for your clients versus last year?
Oh, I think the overwhelming biggest issue or problem or difficulty for me and my clients is witness availability. Everyone's more available because they're not traveling for work as much as they were, if at all.
Right.
But the question becomes, how do we get in front of the client? How do we get the witness? Do we have to do it virtually? Right. Do we do it in person? If it's in person, how do we do it? Do we wear a mask? Are we across a table? Do we have to, use an intercom? It's the difficulty that I have seen, the biggest change between last year and this year. Last year, if I had a deposition or a hearing or a trial, the witnesses would come to me, or I would go to the witnesses. We would sit down. We would pull out our documents, we'd spread across the conference room table, and we would work collaboratively over each other's shoulders. Now we're figuring out, okay, well, do we have to do in-person prep? Do I need to laminate the documents so that they can disinfect them ahead of time? Do I have to, or do I do a Zoom? Do I share the screen? I had a client last week that said, oh, we can't do Zoom, we can only do Microsoft Teams. Just the logistics of trying to practice our craft is, I'm sure it's no different than a lot of people in a lot of industries.
Right.
But the simple logistics of getting in front of a witness has been the biggest difficulty for me and my clients.
Well, and I think we've all upped our ante on technology as far as learning it, being very, very solid when we, roll into depositions. You brought up a really great point. So virtual depositions versus in-person depositions. I take it you've done a bunch of virtual depositions?
Absolutely.
Okay. So what's the benefit of doing a virtual deposition?
That's a real good question, Mary. I don't know that there is one. Personally, I hate them.
Okay.
I think the witness is more checked out, more casual, not paying attention. The lawyer, if you're, depends what you're doing. Are you trying to cross-examine a slippery witness that you really need to nail down? If you're in person and in front of them on the conference room table, you can do all the nonverbal cues. You can lean in and you can narrow your eyes and you can stare them down. And some people might say that that's crossing the line or getting close to inappropriate, but it is a tool that we use, no different than in conversation. If you want to show that you're confident, you're relaxed, you lean back, you take it easy. If you're frustrated, you cross your arms. None of that comes across in a virtual deposition. In a virtual deposition, I've actually seen witnesses have a technical moment where their camera just happens to go off if something gets difficult, or as I said, I've got 2 kids and I've got a sophomore in high school, and the number of technical excuses that he can come up with is mind-blowing. And I've seen that in depositions. The virtual depositions, yes, it makes it easy for scheduling. It's like, can I get to, Topeka, Kansas next Tuesday? Well, maybe not. But I can zoom in to Topeka, Kansas any day of the week, anytime. Give me 30 minutes notice. But so the days of having to travel a day ahead and a day behind, those right now for those kind of depositions, those have been made easier. Literally, if I have a 1-hour fact witness and I need to get to Delaware, that's a 3-day trip for me. And to take 30 minutes of testimony, what a waste for me personally and for the client financially. So the virtual deposition for those kinds of things, brilliant. Brilliant. But my practice, I have a practice on a little larger scale. The dollar value and the stakes are bigger, and so normally we're not doing those 30-minute fact witness depositions. Usually mine are 5, 6, 7 hour, 2-day, 3-day depositions. So the convenience is certainly there, but I believe that the quality of the deposition has gone down dramatically.
So the strategic technological moment, so it sounds like we all need to kind of focus group our kids to figure out what's real, what's not with these technological moments. But have you noticed any sort of like wingman or wingwoman in the depositions, meaning that somebody may be feeding them information?
Absolutely. And I've also noticed that, and whether you do it intentionally or unintentionally, the nonverbal coaching on a Zoom deposition has gotten pretty obnoxious. If everyone is virtual, and if let's say my witness is being deposed, and if you're my witness, and you're being deposed on one screen, and you see everybody and you have it tiled out, and you see me, and if they ask you a question that I don't want you to answer, I'm sitting there going, and you might pick up on it, or I might do something. I might have just a simple signal, and I've questioned lawyers on whether they're coaching their witness, but I believe that the wingman issue and the silent coaching is a absolute critical problem, and I don't know there's anything we can really do about it.
And I mean, I know my firm does a lot of virtual witness prep, and I know one of the things that we are seeing when we talk to witnesses is that unlike in an actual deposition, when you have to have the document in front of you, maybe to refresh your recollection, I've had some people tell me, well, you know what, I'll just go to my other computer, so I'm going to be deposed, but I'll have this other computer and I'll just take a look at things. So we may not be knowing fully what the witness is actually looking at when they're being deposed certain questions, which I think is a huge problem. but I didn't know if you had any experience in that as well.
Or getting text messages.
Right.
I've absolutely, and I've absolutely texted other lawyers during the deposition that we're on the Zoom deposition, and I might not be asking a question, or they might not be participating, and we're online texting.
Right.
The ability for misconduct is almost unlimited, and I find it's going to be so far has been almost impossible to detect and actually confront.
So in your opinion, are you saving your best clients for an actual deposition? If they're like, hey, Ross, we want to depose so-and-so, and this person may be a really big, person in your story or in your case, are you saying that you would rather have it, an actual in-person versus virtual? So
for me, presenting, I've refused thus far, since the day COVID started, I've refused to present any of my witnesses virtually.
Okay.
I will only take marginal witnesses. If it's a critical witness or someone I believe is just important, I want to take it personally, in person, in living color, right there in front of them.
Right.
I will not present my witness virtually unless it's a completely marginal. If you just need the Joe Friday, just the facts, ma'am.
Right.
I was there. Yes, the light was green. I saw the truck go through the intersection. That's all he has to offer. Fine.
Okay.
But if it's a witness that has any level of criticality to the case, no, it's in person for me.
Okay. Well, then let's talk about your virtual, because now we're all online. We're all litigating online. What's the benefits to being virtual for your litigation? Like, do you like virtual mediations, for example?
Virtual mediations, they are a huge double-edged sword for me. I was talking with a mediator here in Dallas just a couple weeks ago, and I was trying to get a mediation slot with him. And I was trying to get an in-person mediation slot. I said, this is a big case. I really want to be in person. And he said, Ross, my office is not scheduling in person right now. Just, I'm thinking December 1 is the earliest. I'm like, well, come on. I really need an in-person.
Right.
I said, I think it's worth it. I want to get their attention. And he said, look, I just want to tell you, my experience has been, I've been having more success settling cases during COVID. And for one reason. I can get the big guy there or the big girl there. Instead of having a junior third level assistant general counsel with $100,000 of authority,
right?
The general counsel can show up. He might be at his beach house in the Hamptons, or he might be skiing in Aspen, but he can zoom into a mediation and be there. And so I see the benefit of having the true decision makers there in person, if you will, versus having a junior associate. The flip side is, as we've all done it, you can turn your camera off, you can turn your microphone off, and you can do other work.
Right.
Or you can step down the hallway, or you can do whatever. And I've absolutely been guilty of, and I'll tell my client, hey, by the way, I'm going to step out for a second.
Right.
I might not tell the mediator that, but I'll have either an associate or my paralegal or my assistant come in and monitor the keyboard. So my personal experience has been, and I've probably done 24 Zoom mediations since this thing started, is the level of interaction is significantly less, and the level of paying attention is less.
Right.
Mediators will text me, hey man, I'm waiting on you.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I'll get back on.
Yeah.
And so I get it that the decision maker can be there, and that can be a good thing.
Right.
But I also believe that it's too easy for all of us to turn the video off, mute the microphone, and do other stuff.
Well, you hope they turn the video off. Like we have heard some stories on my end that people, there could be a level of professionalism that we get too comfortable, that we think that, okay, well, I'll just, go get some ice and I'll go do some stuff. And then I'll kind of roll back in frame because I forgot to maybe put myself off camera or maybe mute the, I think there's a level of professionalism that can be hindered by Zoom, by these virtual hearings, because we're just too comfortable with it.
Well, too comfortable. Also, you just make a technological mistake.
Right.
Right. It's like replying all when you only meant to hit reply.
Right.
Just last week, I was doing a Zoom deposition and my video was off. I thought I'd muted my microphone.
Right.
I had forgotten to.
Yeah.
and my mouse, my pointer was not over it. One of my paralegals walked in and asked me a question about, when I was going skiing over Christmas. And I just started talking about my personal plans. And one of the lawyers got on the screen, was like, Ross.
Right. Stop.
He's like, glad you're going skiing. Turn your microphone off. And I'm like, oh, sorry, guys. So, whether it's professionalism or it's just comfortable, absolutely, that's gone way down. I was in a hearing last week, a Zoom hearing, and with a judge in Florida. Yeah. And her housekeeper, she was in her office at the house, and her housekeeper just comes in with a vacuum cleaner and just starts just going. And she's like, fortunately the judge, so I didn't get sanctioned. But the judge's housekeeper literally came in and started vacuuming in the middle of the hearing.
Yeah.
And whether it's intentional or unintentional, it definitely takes the professionalism out of our profession.
Right. Well, and it could throw you off your game. You're giving an argument and the Amazon guy's rolling in or the dog's barking. A lot can kind of come in that takes you away from what you're supposed to be doing.
Absolutely.
So do you think, like, for witness, you already said that you don't like to do virtual depositions and stuff. Let's talk about virtual trials with jurors.
Oh, Lord.
How is this? Let me just get your opinion first. The good, the bad, the ugly. Are you for them, against them, kind of up on the fence? What do you think?
I could not be more against them.
Okay, why?
Our entire profession as a trial lawyer is about connecting with jurors. Yes, if you and I are going against each other, I'm trying to convince 6 or 12 people that I'm right and you're absolutely wrong. And you're doing the exact same thing. I want to be able to see the jurors react, not just their body language. I want to hear the one juror nudge the other one or see the elbow nudge, like, oh my God, did you see that? I want to see the eye roll. I want to hear someone kind of the snort of derision, right? I want to, you can't get that online. Frankly, you can't, it's almost information overload. If you have 12 jurors tiled up on a screen, right, and you have the judge, and you have opposing counsel, and you have the witness, you can't watch 15 inputs at once. Right. Maybe our kids can, but we can't. And people don't pay attention. They're not as connected. They're not as focused online, in my opinion. I realize that people may say I'm all wrong, but the idea of trying to try a case for a client that's worth millions and millions of dollars virtually just almost makes me sick to my stomach.
Well, and you're kind of talking about the heartbeat of a trial in a lot of ways, that, jurors, when they come in, they're not just, they're listening, but they're also watching. They're watching what's going on in the courtroom. They're listening. They're evaluating the witnesses, all of that. But yet they become a group. They become sort of their own animal, their own entity, if you will. Doing it online, when I can just click off and I'm not really engaging with other jurors per se. Now, I know they say, well, they'll go into a virtual deliberations. There's something about being in person. I see you every day at 8 a.m. to 5 o'clock. I'm with you. We're at coffee breaks together. All of that. There's something that's being taken out when we do it online, I think.
I couldn't agree more. We all try to figure out who the foreman of the jury is. Right. And sometimes we're right, sometimes we're wrong. But when you see the jurors file out of the jury room and into the box, sometimes you can tell who the leaders are and who the followers are. Right. You can't do that online. Right. We never talk to them in the hallway or the elevator or the bathroom, but you see how they look at you. If they refuse to look at you or they look at you with a kind of they try to hide it, but you can see if they don't like you or they don't like your client. You get that vibe. Right. You're not going to get that online. Right. And I believe I obviously I haven't been on the jury side of a deliberation during Zoom, but I can't possibly imagine how a jury can get a team type of a feeling. You get in the jury room and someone takes over or a couple people take over, and whether it's a strong male or a strong female or whatever it may be. Right. And then you get around the jury room table and you pull the witness and I don't see how the jury trial system that we've grown up in can flourish or even really function halfway decently under a Zoom type environment.
Well, and what if, just like a simple thing, You're asking people to come into trial and they have to face a group of 6 or 12 people from society and tell them why they did something. That's a far different feeling than just being up on a screen telling your story. When you have to look someone eye to eye in person, that's different than just being online.
And no different than having to face someone and say you're sorry, or chew someone out in person.
Right.
It's a lot easier to fire off a text message, oh my gosh, Mary, why'd you do that?
Right. I'm going to break up with you via text. There you go.
I can sit back behind my, in my living room with my buddy on the couch, and we can craft the text just right.
Right.
And I could send a scathing text to you, and you can get right back at me. But if we're in person, it's hard to do that in person.
Right.
So I think the level of discourse is a lot different when it's hiding behind an electronic wall, for sure.
Well, and I mean, I think a conscientious juror will always be a conscientious juror, but the online capability of just really getting other feedback and doing other research and bringing that research into your trial, I think just gets so much more heightened if we go virtually with jurors and with trials. I think because they can be on their screen, and then I can also be logging in and checking something out. I think that the Google factor has just upped itself.
It's always a concern, even in a real person trial.
Right.
But here's the deal. If some critical piece of evidence rolls out at 11 a.m. And it's something that the jurors might not understand or might have questions about, by the time 5 o'clock has gotten there and they're released for the day, there's been 2 other witnesses. We've had 4 or 5 hours more testimony.
Right. And
they get home and the kids are running around and they've got to make dinner or they've got to go to basketball practice. And by the time they finally sit down with a glass of wine at 8:30 at night, they're not going to, oh, wait, what was that? What was he asking about this morning? Let me Google that.
Yeah. But
if it's 11 a.m. and something rolls out that the juror doesn't understand, he's just going to split screen his computer, pull up Google, and start typing in. What is a, turbine blade, fatigue failure?
Right.
And we'll never know it. So long as that juror keeps looking relatively close to the camera, we can't tell if he's or she is doing something else.
Right. Or if somebody else is listening, we talk about the wingman, wingwoman. What if somebody else is listening? I mean, I've done some projects where people are like, yeah, my husband came in and this is what they think, or this is what, and you're thinking, oh my goodness, how many more people could be listening to a case when you're doing this online? You're thinking you're only talking to Ross, when really I may be talking to Ross and his son and his daughter. All these people are hearing confidential information.
First, absolutely. I mean, several people in my office, people that never go to court, assistants, and frankly, one of the girls in my accounting department. She's like, I would love to watch you in trial. You have a hearing tomorrow? I'm like, yeah. She's like, can I sit in the corner and just listen and watch? And so people in my office have come in and attended hearings that would have never done so, and they can do so in the anonymity of the shadows. Right. Absolutely.
Right.
And that's the wingman factor you're talking about. Whether a witness is trying to be unscrupulous and have someone feed them information or help them with answers. Absolutely. I mean, if someone's asking, Mary, what's 2 times 2? And you're sitting there going, I have no idea. And I'm sitting there going,
let me check my text.
I'm sitting there going, all right. I mean,
exactly.
That's there's no way to catch it.
Right.
There's no way. Unless you have camera, I don't know. I guess there's something you could do. Right. In extreme circumstances, have cameras, on the room as well and that kind of stuff. But frankly, I don't think there's a way to really stop misdeeds if they want to happen.
Well, but you've had we talked earlier before the show started, you've done some arbitration work, right?
Absolutely.
Virtually. And you enjoyed that experience. Why?
Well, so part of the issue is I can have multiple screens up. And I focus on the camera, but behind the camera, much like a teleprompter, we don't have teleprompters in court. And so I can have I did an oral argument with the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals in San Francisco. Well, I did one a year ago when I was right there in front of all the judges at the lectern. I had my notes out. Right. I got a hot ball question, and I was trying to find the site. And when you're doing that, you look disheveled and you look unsure. Well, this one, I had a 50-inch TV screen. I opened up my little MacBook. So I had the camera facing right at me, and I could interact not
Right.
just a webcam. I could interact if I needed to, but I had a 50-inch TV screen right behind it, and I had 4 pages of notes in 30-point font that I could read quickly.
Right.
And when they asked me questions, and it was a hot bench, I was looking at the camera the whole time, but really what I was doing, I was looking at my sites. So it was a lot easier to present and look completely, entirely focused on the judge or the jury, the judge in that case,
Right.
while actually using my notes as opposed to scribbling down, looking through paper, trying to find it, trying to read it, not having to pull out my readers,
Right.
all the things that we seasoned litigators have to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I think all lawyers, we've gotten, we've had to learn this year the importance of the optics, learning how to utilize frame, or at least getting people on board who can help teach you that. Because I think for certain things, we are going to be virtual for a while.
Looks like it.
Hopefully not with jury trials per se, but even if we do that, it's a new animal that we're going to have to learn how to present differently. It's all about presentation.
Absolutely.
So one of my last questions to you will be, what trends do you see happening as we start rolling into 2021?
We're going to have to get the jury trial system back up and running. The criminal trials, they have a constitutional right to a speedy trial. Everyone shut down when we didn't know what COVID was or where it was going or how to contain it or how to work with it. Honestly, that can only last for so long in our industry. We hear about it on the news, COVID fatigue and that kind of thing. We're all getting there in all aspects of our life. The jury trial system, we can only keep kicking the can down the road so long.
Right.
And judges and courtrooms are figuring out ways to space people out. Well, we were supposed to pick a jury last week in Houston. We were going to do it in the it's not the Astrodome, whatever the Reliant Stadium, right? So we were literally going to try a case. It got continued at the last second, but we were going to try a case at Reliant Stadium,
right?
Because they were going to put the jurors, in the stands, and that's going to present a whole nother level of difference in actually being able to hear.
Yes.
In a courtroom, we're fairly intimate. We're fairly packed in. If it's a traditional jury box, I can see all 12 jurors without even having to move my head. If I'm wearing a Madonna boom mic and I'm, wearing my football shoes, because I'm on the turf, and I've got to yell at a juror, and the juror is on row 8, it's going to be interesting. I don't think we're going to be able to keep on pushing jury trials off.
Right.
And God help us all when we start trying them again.
Right. Well, I do think that there's going to be sort of a tsunami of litigation too, because anytime, like when we've had a recession from 2008 on, I think there is a tendency to get more litigious, which I think is also going to be something that's going to start impacting courts, is the more cases that are going to be filed and how they're going to approach that. I mean, we're bottled up.
Oh yeah.
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 Real bad.
I know.
Yeah.
And my last question to you, how many masks have you bought this year?
Let's see. I've got about 500 that I bought. And we threw the firm logo on there for them, right?
Well, there you go.
It's a branding opportunity. So we have a big grab bag right inside our front door. And we try to give away as many as we can.
Masks, it is the fashion of 2020 for sure.
Even though my kids refuse to wear them at school. I said, guys, come on, you need a brand for me.
Yeah, I mean, got to earn your keep, right?
This is what's paying for school. You need to wear that mask.
Wear the mask, exactly.
So they wear it, but they turn it inside out.
Right. You gotta do something to the man.
That's right.
Well, Ross, thank you so much for joining us today. We hope that you enjoyed this episode of The Jury's Still Out. You can find out more information about Ross and his firm underneath. And so you can always like our page on YouTube and then check us out on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for watching The Jury's Still Out. To learn more about Mary Griffiths or our guests today, check the description below. Don't forget, we'll be here every other week of the month with more incredible trial stories.